Evil Squid Comics Podcast. We are part of the Collector's Maze Network.
Don.
Scott.
Andrew. All right, Scott, The Forged, Volume 2 and 3.
The Forged, Volume 2 and 3.
Gosh,
created by Greg Rucka. Or was it Rucka?
Rucka.
Rucka.
I say Rucka.
Yeah, whichever way.
Rucka,
And
Rucka,
Eric
potato.
Trautman and Mike Henderson has
Mike Henderson
the art.
is amazing.
Yes. Some colors by some other people. But yeah, it all works out. Oh my gosh.
So good, right?
So The Forged. Okay, let's give you a little bit of background. This is 2 and 3. So in the first one, Volume 1, you've got this group of females that are trying to help out, and they're basically kind of like what would you say? The main,
elite fighting
the
force
elite
of
fighting
the Empire.
force of the Empire. And
this
so
is
they're going
science
out and
fiction,
doing those
space,
special,
intergalactic.
they're like those SEALs or, Marines or whatever else that are going out and doing the missions that nobody else can. And in the first one, they come across this sentient life form that they had never come across before that really, kind of kicked their asses a little bit and almost took them out and took out one of their big warships or whatever else you want to say. And so it kind of put them on their toes, and they had to get out of there fast. That's where it ends, in the first arc. But it kind of sets you up, with the main characters. Here, this little group of 5 females, that seem to be in this special fighting force. Now you come to find out, there's quite a few of these special five women group fighting forces. The overall empire is ruled by this main empress who seems to have some certain, future seeing abilities, maybe. But she definitely has a group of these
clones of
her, I think,
that
or something like this,
abilities.
that have precog abilities. But you get the feeling that in these other ones, you do meet the Empress, and you get the feeling that there's something there going on with her, that there's more than meets the eye.
Yeah.
Even though she's a bit eccentric. But if you're 10,000 years old, I suppose I might be you.
Well, it's funny because she was kind of eccentric in Volume 2, and then in Volume 3, she kind of got serious and got kind of more of a leader. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You could see some of these
leadership
aspects of why she was the ruler that she was in some ways. Yeah. So anyway, starting off in Volume 2, that's where the main setup is. You've got this Empress who runs, rules the universe or whatever, and now they found a sentient life form, and they're trying to figure out how to deal with that. In number 2, basically this fighting group that was introduced in 1, it goes to the main, what would you say, the main planet,
the main capital
of
the
world. Exactly, that's where I was going to go. Almost like the Coruscant of this realm. They meet up with the Empress. They get some leave time. There's a certain military strategist who's kind of questioning things and trying to figure out exactly what's going on, why some certain things happened, and maybe what they need to do about it to try to make sure that the Empire stays safe. And he's kind of one of the other main characters where you're kind of not real sure where his loyalties lie, because he seems to be a very smart guy, but you feel like he's a little bit maybe against our main fighting force of women, but yet he's also seems like he's interested in the power of the Empire as well.
Yeah, it's funny you say loyalties, because I think everybody seems like they're very loyal to the Empress, and they just sometimes disagree on what that loyalty
What the
means.
best way is to protect the Empire.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they're all very loyal. It's just whether or not they agree with the path.
But when at least for me, when I'm reading this, and because of other things that I've read, when there is those aspects, especially of something that has a certain power, you get the feeling of power jockeying, where people are either trying to say, I'm going to do this, that, or whatever to either maintain my own power or to try to step up and get a higher power. Yeah. And so when I'm reading this, and especially early on in the second one, when you meet this gentleman who seems to be a very good strategist, it's like, okay, is he trying to improve his power, maybe usurp the existing Empress, or is he truly just after, I'm trying to do its best for the Empire? He kind of says that, but you never, for me, I'm reading this and going, okay, is there ulterior motives here? I'm not fully trusting anybody, at this aspect, except for maybe my main 5 group of girls, and even there could be a traitor, in the mist.
Sure.
But because they're the ones that were initially introduced, I kind of feel like, okay, those are my main protagonists probably
Sure,
of this.
sure.
And in particular, you find out that Victory, who's kind of like the leader of our little 5 group, seems to be the main protagonist and the main one that's going on. But what's interesting is Volume 2 is pretty much just all about like that main capital planet and some of the jockeying that's going on there, a little bit of what the maybe characterization of the girls, what they kind of do, and the overall operations maybe of the Empire in some ways.
Yeah.
Volume 3 then gets into a bit more of the overall story of, okay, what is going on with this other alien life form? Yeah. And you kind of find out a little bit more where maybe there's an aspect of, in most things, the Empire maybe not being as noble as maybe was thought.
Sure.
And that there is a certain aspect of this alien life form that maybe isn't as evil as we were first introduced to believe.
Yeah.
Not surprising in something like this type stuff, but the way, I guess where I want to wrap back around is that the way it's introduced and the way it's built up is just very well done. I don't know that I can say that it's well written. I can't say, I read Volume 2 and not a whole freaking lot happens, to be quite honest. At least in my feel. But it's entertaining.
Yeah.
You're building up these characters. You're seeing how some of this stuff operates. And strangely, it was engaging, throughout the whole thing. And then I read Volume 3, and there are shit that happens, in there. And it is very engaging, and you feel like it's moving the story along. But the two of them together really do a nice 1-2 punch. But honestly, if I read them as, separate things, I would have been totally satisfied too, because they do tell a nice little piece of the story, from a beginning to an end as well.
Sure.
So I me personally, I chalk it up to Greg, their Rucka, but I mean, obviously his partner in crime there, Trautman or whatever, could be there too. But it's very good world building. It's just very good. I feel like overall crafting a story, good characterization, and there might be an aspect of lack of originality a little bit, just because I could feel like you're pulling from all these different aspects, but yet there is still this originality with how maybe some of the ruling structure is there, and maybe how some of the characters act compared to different things. I don't know. I feel like there's a certain familiarity that I feel with it, but yet they do it in a way that I still feel is original.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense at all?
I feel like it's got a lot of things that you've seen before, but it's pulled together in like a unique way that like all the things together are kind of interesting and different.
So,
have you read both of these, Don?
I've read all of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys liked it. I knew that you would when I read it.
Because it's amazing.
Yeah. And it's right up your guys' kind of alley, like world building, like sci-fi. You know what I mean? Like it's done well. The thing that's interesting, I guess, it really doesn't need it, but like in the single issues, there's a lot of back matter.
Oh, there is. Because you let me read the first chunk of them you read.
And it's not necessarily needed,
no,
obviously, to follow the story, but it does expand on the story, right?
It does expand on the history
it builds
of the
it out.
universe. Yeah.
It gives you a little bit more. It's kind of, it's cool that like if you buy the single issues, like you get that
extra. A little extra, yeah.
But it is kind of, I don't know.
It's kind of shitty they don't put it in.
Right. I wonder, like, does he have like a, what do you call
Kickstarter?
it? No, not a Kickstarter.
Oh, okay.
What the blog you do, like the
like a Substack?
Yeah. Does Rucka have a Substack? Maybe he puts it on there.
I don't think so.
I don't know. But,
I don't know. I mean, I read those single issues from you originally, and while I like that, I do admit I didn't read a lot of that back matter, because it did get to be a little. I felt like in some ways for me it slowed it down, because I was wanting to read that. Maybe if I would have read the full story and then decided I wanted to go back to that, it would have been different.
It's kind of
it's like the first time you read Watchmen.
Right, exactly. That's exactly where I was going.
Right. You almost want to get through the entire story and then go, wow, I really like that so much that I'd like to know more. Yeah. When you throw it at me like that, it's like, hey, I'm still just trying to build up on this. Do I really? Yeah. And then I'm feeling like, do I need to read this so I know more? And I felt like when I read the first 6 or whatever it was, 3 issues. Was that what it was? It was only 3?
Yeah, they're oversized.
Okay. Okay, that I felt like I didn't really. I admit I didn't read too much of that. I think I skimmed it, in some ways, just trying to grasp different little aspects. But you're right. Maybe seeing some of that, especially if you do have the single issues, and now 3 issues, it just gives you a taste, of things. Now having read through, I guess 9, it's like, okay, I really like this. Maybe I would be more interested in knowing a little bit more of that.
I wish they were still doing it.
And it seems like they've taken a hiatus. I hope it.
Yeah, me too. I know Rucka is bringing back Lazarus.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't take that long.
That's still out there? I mean, he started on that like 15 years ago.
Right. I mean, obviously Rucka can write it fast and draw it. So I don't know if he's on other projects. Yeah, I really wish this book would.
Yeah, they kind of leave you on a cliffhanger too.
Yes.
Well, is this all that's out there then?
Yeah.
Is it 9? Okay.
Yeah, they haven't released any single issues of anything since.
I think the last issue came out like in 2012. So
yeah,
it's been a little while.
That's printed in September of 2024. The third trade.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. So
and they haven't solicited anything for single issue.
Well, it definitely was enjoyable, and out of I read quite a bit of stuff here in this couple week period, and I think that this was probably the best what I read.
Noise.